Alright, let's play some more Blitz. Playing 3 minutes with a 2-second increment like usual, just to avoid any crazy time scrambles at the end. And we have a Nimzovich Sicilian here. It's been a while since I've seen someone play this. So I think e5 is the main move. You can also play knight c3 and try to get them to transpose, but then they can play d5. So let's play e5. I know I prepared something against this, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Yeah, I'm totally drawing a blank. I know knight c3 is a move. At least I'm pretty sure. So I might just play that. I think the problem here for black is it's kind of hard to finish up your development, and white can get kind of a big lead in development in a lot of these lines. Here I think you can take on d5, and then maybe play d4? Guess I'll go with that. Yeah, and then d6. So black could end up with an isolated d-pawn in some of these lines, and we'll have to play that kind of position. Kind of curious about the best way to handle this immediately, though. Probably we take on d6. And after they take back, I'm thinking probably just bishop e2, or we could take right away. I guess the bishop would have to move again. Usually if the bishop is taking from its starting square, I don't like playing a move like that, but I think I might play it here just because the bishop has to move again. The question is c4 a threat? Trying to get this, well, it's not really an advanced Panov structure. I was trying to think of it like a Panov with reversed colors, like a Panov Caro-Kann. I think I'll take, just to make sure I can play against the isolated pawn. So let's play bishop e2 and get castled. I'm sure black will castle as well. And we have a pretty typical IQP position. Black has more room for the pieces, but they have that enduring weakness there on d4. So I think here I might play c3, just to discourage any pushes of d4 in some cases. The question is, where does this bishop go? I'd like it to be able to fight for this square, but it's just not too easy to accomplish that right now. If I play knight d4, we might both end up with an IQP. Okay, I think I will offer an exchange of light bishops. I know I'm kind of breaking a rule there by moving the piece again, but I think I like to trade pieces here just because you do have the isolated pawn. Okay, I'll get the bishop pair if you give it to me. And here I was thinking I could even play g4. I'm wondering if you would take with the f-pawn if I were to capture. I think I'll just leave my options open for now and just play maybe bishop f4. And if you try some d4 advance, I might think about playing g4 in a position like that. Just because if I take there, then knight takes might be annoying with the pin. Okay. I'm trying to think. If I play rook e1 and you take, and I take with the queen, then you could take on f3 and try to split the pawns up. So I probably don't want that. I could play g4 now. I'll just play g4. I'm not really too afraid of the exposed king. I have plenty of defenders around the king. So let's take and double your pawns. Let's play... Well, if I play rook e1, I'm wondering if you can swap and then try to play d4. I might play something like queen d3 here, just trying to double on the d-file against that pawn. Because you have to find another defender for this guy. It's not too easy to see how you defend it again if I just play rook 81 next turn. So either you have to double on the d-file, which is kind of a defensive posture there for white, or you have to find some other way to deal with this. Okay, you could play that. And I guess your point is if I exchange, I help lift your queen, don't I? Nonetheless, though, there's only one minor piece left on the board, which is kind of an ideal situation here, playing against the isolated queen's pawn. So let's double on it, I think, force you to play rook a to d8. And I'm thinking there I could either play... I'll probably just play rook e1. And this seems like a pretty good setup against the isolated pawn. If I can just exchange knights, we kind of get that ideal endgame there where I can just triple on the d-file, and my exposed king shouldn't matter too much with no minor pieces on the board. Even as it is, this knight's very restricted. Hard to see what it could really do. Yeah, you can go after it with the queen. So how to handle this? Knight d4 is one idea. Oh, I'm really low on time. I just realized. Let's just play king g2 for now. Probably not the best move, but I'll have to make do with it. And I just want to increase the pressure to the d-pawn. If I could double on the file, that'd be great. Okay, black's kind of out of ideas, I think. So I'd like the rook to be in front when I double. Okay, just rook d1. Maybe I could try to make use of c4 at some point. Probably not right away, though. It's probably not going to work. Okay, can you do that? I'll play b3. Okay, I'm fine with that, I think. Now, I'd like to play knight d, but then knight e5, huh? So I'll play knight d4. If you play knight e5, I think I'll just back up and think about playing f4. I'm just worried you're going to play rook c8, and now my own pawn's weak. Oh, if I exchange, I un-isolate your pawn, but I do have c4. I don't think this is good enough for a win, though. Not in this kind of position. But I guess we'll see. You do have doubled pawns. Certainly I have to be maybe a little better, but we know in a king and pawn endgame there's no such thing as better. It's either a win, loss, or a draw. Okay, did not expect that. Let's stop you from reinforcing that guy. And I'm wondering if I can just pick it up now with king e4. Maybe you can play f5 and stop me, but now my king gets in. Yeah, I feel like d4 wasn't right. This pawn could be very weak. Let's play g5 and fix the doubled pawns. Let's play here. What to do? I have to watch out for this guy, too. Maybe I'll just play a3. Yeah, I'm not too sure if I can win this now. You do have to constantly guard this pawn. And I do have 3-on-2. Okay, now I can take your pawn, but you're going to take my pawn. I think we just have to kind of go with this, though. Okay, check. I don't care about that. But now you can take with check. It's kind of annoying. Let's stop you from accessing a3. And I'm pretty sure this should be a draw. It's not too clear to me who has the better winning chances here. I think I'm just gonna... Well, okay, now I have to attack your rook. You're gonna step back and try to threaten this kind of stuff. But then I just step back once again. So let's force you to play rook h3, and then I'll play a4, trying to play b5, I think. Or maybe c5 is a better approach. c5 threatening rook d6. That's probably better, because you can't defend your c6 pawn too easily. That's better than just pushing the majority. Always want to look out for those weaknesses your opponent has. Okay, check. I'm gonna grab one of the pawns. Okay, let's take this guy. And I want to come here, I think, just to make sure I can guard this pawn while I push the c-pawn. You're probably going to play rook c3. But see, if you play that now, well, then if I take, you can check and take this guy. I'm really going to have to play on this 2-second increment. Yeah, that's what I expected. Let's play c6. Now I don't care if you check me. I can walk in. I can walk in and support this passed pawn. And I think I have pretty decent winning chances here. Okay, now I can check you to the back rank. Okay, c7. I'm threatening to check and make a queen. And you can't really stop me. Your king can't get off the back rank. Oh, but you can play that, can't you? Check here, queen. I think the king and pawn endgame is winning for me, though. I could be totally wrong, though. I just thought that I can come in and win all your pawns fast enough. I know you're going to try to do the same thing, but I think I'm faster. And it's a win. All right. I don't know if I should have won that one. It'll be interesting to go back and take a look after the game. But I managed to turn that into a win. So let's actually hop over here to the analysis board and see what happened there. All right, so this was an interesting one. Let's go ahead and turn on self-analysis, get rid of all this computer stuff for now. So first, this opening. This isn't a Sicilian line you see every day. I know that you can play e5. You can also play knight c3, and black really has no good way to avoid transposing to a normal Sicilian other than d5. For example, here d6, of course, you could just play d4 and go back for a more mainline Sicilian. But I think here they could play d5, and I think this was actually my preparation, if I remember correctly. You can take here and then play bishop b5. I think that's the line. Yeah, e takes, knight takes, bishop b5, bishop d7, and knight e5. That's it. Yeah, with some pretty crazy complications here, but it turns out pretty well for white. White has a very good score in this position, so you could look into that option against the Nimzovich Sicilian. But I think what I played is also a viable line, just pushing e5 right away, almost like in the Alekhine defense. And then after knight d5, okay, knight c3 has sometimes been played, but I guess c3 is the more popular approach. That almost looks like it transposes to like an Alapin Sicilian, though. That's probably what the majority of those games are. I think the Alapin is a lot more popular than the Nimzovich Sicilian. So I think here knight c3 and yeah, e6 is very similar to the game, or they can take on c3, and maybe you get doubled pawns there, but white's going to have a big space advantage and lead in development. But anyway, in the game, after we get a position like this, we get a very typical isolated queen's pawn position. And I think black never really got much play in compensation for the isolated pawn. Black could think about trying to play for an early d4. I'm just not sure if it's ever too realistic to get in. Like, what if they play d4 in this position right here? I think that might be playable right here as far as I can see. Although I wonder if here I could play b4, b5 and just kick you away from that pawn. Like here, b4, and what do? Bishop e6, b5, and I think I might end up winning this pawn. So maybe you can't play d4 there. So you played bishop f5. I was happy to try to exchange some pieces. You avoided it. h3, bishop h5 is probably right. Bishop f4. Once again, here, maybe you could consider playing d4. I was going to play g4 if you did that, though. And then, well, if I swap bishops, now you get a tempo on this bishop. That's kind of annoying, isn't it? So I think the moral is, black really had no way to generate an attack, which is usually what the side with the IQP wants to do. So I think they should have looked for a way to liquidate it and play d4. And they probably could have gotten a roughly equal position if they played a quick d4. I think my opening play wasn't perfect here. But in the game, they didn't really do anything too drastic. They let me swap off some minor pieces. Yeah, exchanging bishops here doesn't make too much sense to me, just because that's what white wants when you're playing against the isolated queen's pawn. It's really the only noticeable factor in this position. There's no other isolated pawns on the board. There's no attacks. The only feature that matters is the IQP. So black probably shouldn't just trade minor pieces, because that's really good for white. But nonetheless, they defended well in this portion of the game. I really wasn't able to make use of it as well as I wanted to. b3 here is probably kind of a concession, because then my c-pawn could become weak. There's some positions where black could switch to the c-file, let me take the IQP while they get the c-pawn in some lines if I ever, generate enough pressure now. I wonder if I have anything better in this position. I guess I have to at least consider going for the endgame with queen takes c4, trading rooks, and maybe playing there like knight e5, going after the c4 pawn. I just thought you would play b5 though, and it's a very symmetrical position, but I think I'm probably at least a little bit better there. It's just hard to see if concretely I can do anything, and I didn't like getting rid of the IQP. So I played b3, queens come off. If you exchange here, I think I'm pretty happy, because then I can take and play c4 and make use of the pin. Although, like I said, black could try to switch to the c-file. That's what I didn't like. And now, if I take their pawn, they take my pawn. I'm probably better there, though, because I'm faster getting to your 7th rank. So even still, probably white's a bit better. But in the game, I just took and played c4, trying to make use of the pin, but that's not good enough. The black king is too active, I think. So I think black defended pretty well out of the opening, and the logical conclusion should have probably been a draw. But let's see what happened here. Yeah, so d4 I felt like was kind of a mistake here, because now b4, and I can make sure that you can't defend this pawn. So now f5, this was a very critical kind of phase of the game. And looking at how it went, I'm not sure if I played entirely accurately here. My king never really infiltrated. One idea that strikes me now is, what if I let the king come to d3 to blockade this pawn, try to tie up the rook that way, play something like king e2, and now rook a3 maybe, followed by king d3? And if you target my pawn, I probably just play rook a4 in the meantime, and then you have to come back and defend your d-pawn. That looks like a pretty promising approach as well, but what happened in the game was this. I played g5, a3, but I'm not sure if this exchange of pawns was good for black. I control the only open file, and I found the c5 idea, which I think is very strong. And I think here, white's probably just winning. The c-pawn is too strong, the king's active, the king's pushed to the back rank. And even here, even though black can win this pawn if I queen it, the king and pawn endgame is winning for me. I was trying to assess that very quickly in a time scramble. It's a big, of course, race. I have to grab both g-pawns. Black has to grab my b-pawn, but I'm one tempo fast enough. And I was able to win the endgame like that. I guess maybe actually 2 tempos fast enough, because I could sack the queen for this pawn and then just queen my f-pawn. So it works out for white. I think letting me infiltrate on that d-file was just fatal for black in a rook endgame like that. Alright, thanks for watching everyone. Please make sure you visit chesspathways.com and sign up there if you haven't already. It's totally free. And if you would like to work with me as your coach and help you get better at chess, there's also a link down in the description to book a call with me. So feel free to book a call today as well if you'd like to talk about working with me over the next several months on openings, various other aspects of chess. I'd be happy to work with you personally. Thanks, and I will talk to you soon.